Besides tubes, transistors, and transformers, there's another T that offers another classic analog overdrive effect. That's tape, and the effect is tape saturation. Of course, back in the day, it wasn't an effect, it was just the inherent nonlinearity of tape, and like with many of the other types of analog distortion and overload, people didn't realize just how much a part of the sound of analog recordings it was, until it was gone with the advent of digital media. When a recording is made on analog tape, the signal is transferred via the tape machine's recording head from electrical form, voltage, to magnetic form. Magnetic particles on the tape are rearranged to follow the voltage swings of the analog wave, and when the recording is done, they remain in those positions. That's the actual physical recorded signal. In playback, the magnetic information is read by the playback head and transferred back to a voltage for mixing and monitoring. When the signal is at a lower level that falls within the linear part of the tape's transfer range, then the magnetic version of the signal is a pretty faithful representation of the original analog voltage. But if the incoming voltage exceeds that level, goes into the red, then, just as with electrical circuits like tubes and transistors, the tops and bottoms of the wave will be affected. With analog tape, this clipping is gradual, again just like with tubes, and unlike digital clipping, which is abrupt and harsh sounding. As the wave is gradually clipped, a signal increasing in level stops increasing in level. In other words, it's compressed. And, of course, the change in the wave shape produces harmonic distortion components. The gradual overloading of signals on tape is called tape saturation, and it has its own particular quality which initially proved very difficult to simulate. Here, you can hear how a gentle application of tape saturation can subtly enhance or gently pump up the sound of drums. For a long time after digital recording and mixing had become the standard, some sessions still employed analog tape recorders, specifically for the warmth and subtle edge of their tape saturation. This was especially popular for drums, where the gentle compression and subliminal distortion can really enhance the sounds of both individual drums and cymbals and the drum kit as a whole. Sometimes the drums were initially recorded onto tape to get that elusive, saturated quality, and then transferred immediately into the DAW for all further editing and mixing. Another application of analog tape in the digital era was to bounce a final mix onto tape, where the subtle saturation would often bring a pleasing warmth and gentle squeeze to the overall mix. Engineers would often record the final mix in both analog and digital form, and then listen to both, choosing the sound quality that worked best for that particular song and mix. As actual tape stock became less readily available, digital simulations of tape saturation stepped up and started to sound pretty decent. And nowadays there are many plugins that do a good job of emulating tape saturation, like these Ampex models from Universal Audio, and Wave's emulation of the classic Abbey Road Studer 4-track of Beatles fame. Just as with emulations of other analog gear, tape saturation is modeled in both fancier high-end processors and freeware and built-in plugins. With the ready availability of simulated tape saturation, if you want to add that specific quality to tracks or full mixes, there are plenty of options available. Of course, no discussion of distortion would be complete without addressing digital distortion, the final frontier, so to speak. I'll wrap up the course with a look at digital distortion in the next video.